All right, so you're looking into Uber stock. Smart move. We got a whole stack of research here.
Yeah.
We got a recent stock analysis report, some earnings call, highlights analyst ratings, and even some news articles.
Wow.
And let's just say it's a bit of a puzzle.
Interesting.
But that's what we're here for, right? We're going to do a deep dive into all of this, and by the end, you'll know if Uber is a buy right now or not.
Yeah. You know what's really fascinating is that Uber's doing really well right now. They're firing on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some serious questions about whether they can keep this momentum going.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's get into it.
First of the good news, Uber's Q4 2024 report was stellar.
It was a good one?
We're talking record-breaking growth, 18% year-over-year increase in gross bookings,
Yeah.
and get this, 21% in constant currency. They blew past even their own optimistic 3-year outlook.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
That constant currency figure tells you that demand for Uber's services is surging globally, even more than they thought it would. And it's not just rides anymore. They're
No.
seeing strong performance in both mobility and delivery, which is key for a company trying to diversify.
Exactly. They're not just a ride-hailing company anymore.
No.
And speaking of exceeding expectations, let's talk about the Uber One membership program.
Okay.
30 million members, up 60% year over year.
Wow.
That's a sign of some serious customer loyalty
Mm-hmm.
and recurring revenue.
Absolutely.
Those members are using multiple Uber services,
Yeah.
which is exactly what they want.
That's a really positive indicator.
Yeah.
Growing customer loyalty, like that means a more predictable revenue stream, and investors love to see that.
Of course. And there's more good news. Remember all the buzz about Uber's autonomous vehicle investment?
Oh yeah, the AVs.
Yeah, they're launching new programs in Austin and Atlanta, partnering with other companies.
Uh-huh.
It feels like the future is arriving, doesn't it?
It does. But remember that autonomous vehicles are a long game. It'll be a while before they really impact Uber's bottom line. That being said, strategically, Uber's positioning themselves well for a future with AVs.
Okay, so we've got impressive growth, a diversified business model, loyal customers, and a forward-looking strategy. But as with any investment, it's important to look at the challenges too.
Right, you got to see both sides.
Their Q1 2025 guidance predicts slower growth in the 17-21% range. And a big chunk of that slowdown is because of foreign exchange rates.
Yeah, that's right. That FX headwind means Uber's international business is sensitive to currency swings, especially in emerging markets where exchange rates can be volatile.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't unique to Uber, but it's definitely something investors should keep an eye on.
And let's not forget about those pesky insurance costs.
Oh, yeah, those.
They're still a major factor for ride-hailing companies, even though Uber expects them to come down a bit in 2025.
This actually highlights a broader challenge in the ride-hailing industry. Insurance is a major expense, and it directly impacts profitability. Investors are right to be concerned about this, even if Uber is actively working to bring those costs down.
So we've got this tension between incredible performance and these challenges that just won't go away.
Right.
What are professional analysts saying about all of this? How are they interpreting these trends?
That's where things get even more interesting. Analyst opinions on Uber are all over the map, from extremely bullish to very cautious.
Yeah, it seems like there's no clear consensus. I even saw that Bank of America cut their price target for Lyft, which is Uber's biggest competitor.
Right.
What does that tell us about the competitive landscape?
It shows that the ride-hailing market is still fiercely competitive, and that influences how investors view Uber's potential. Even if Uber's doing well, they're not operating in a vacuum.
Let's dive into those analyst ratings specifically. The highest recent price target I saw was $99 from Truist, while the lowest was a shocking $42 from Wells Fargo.
Wow, what a range.
The average is hovering around $84.56, which is a pretty wide spread.
That spread really highlights how unpredictable Uber's future is right now. There are so many factors at play, both positive and negative, and how those factors shake out will determine whether Uber soars or stumbles.
So with all this information on the table, is Uber a buy? There's no easy answers, but we've got to look at all sides of the story, right?
Absolutely. And a big piece of that story is Uber's investment in autonomous vehicles. This is a major part of Uber's strategy, and it's something that's generating a lot of excitement,
Yeah, sure.
but also a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, it's like this futuristic vision that's just out of reach.
Right.
But Uber seems determined to make it happen. They're investing heavily in AV technology, launching pilot programs, partnering up with other companies.
They're definitely going all in on this. And it makes sense from a strategic standpoint. Uber already has the biggest ride-hailing network in the world.
Sure.
So if they can figure out how to successfully integrate self-driving cars into that network,
Mm-hmm.
the potential is just enormous.
But it's not as simple as just like plugging in the cars, right?
Yeah.
What are the real-world obstacles that stand between Uber today and that AV-powered future?
Well, there are a few major hurdles.
Yeah?
First and foremost, the technology just has to be flawless.
Right.
We're talking about putting people's lives in the hands of machines.
Literally.
There's no room for error. And achieving that level of reliability is incredibly complex and expensive.
And that cost will ultimately be passed on to the consumer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, will people actually be willing to pay a premium for a self-driving Uber? I don't know if I'm ready to hand over the wheel just yet.
That's a great question. And it's one that Uber's going to have to figure out how to answer.
Yeah.
They're betting that people are going to be willing to pay for the convenience, the safety, and maybe even just the novelty of riding in a self-driving car.
Right.
But it's still a big open question.
And what about like the regulatory landscape? Governments are still figuring out how to regulate self-driving cars.
Absolutely.
I mean, that could create all sorts of delays and roadblocks for companies like Uber.
Yeah, the legal and regulatory framework for autonomous vehicles is still evolving,
Right.
and it varies like crazy from country to country, even state to state.
Wow.
So Uber will have to navigate a super complex web of rules and regulations if they want to be able to deploy AVs at scale.
It's a lot to deal with.
It's-
And then there are the ethical considerations.
Oh, yeah.
Like what happens in an accident with a self-driving Uber? Who is liable?
Right.
Those are some really complex questions that we as a society are still trying to wrap our heads around.
You're hitting on some crucial points. The ethical implications of autonomous vehicles are huge, and there are no easy answers. Uber and all the other companies that are developing AV technology, they'll have to address these questions head on.
So it sounds like autonomous vehicles are this giant question mark hanging over Uber's future. There's enormous potential, but also significant risk.
Yeah, a lot of uncertainty.
What does this mean for investors who are trying to figure out if Uber stock is a good buy?
Well, it's important to remember that Uber's AV ambitions are just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
They're already a global leader in ride-hailing and delivery. They're generating billions in revenue, and they're constantly innovating.
Right. We talked about that Uber One membership program that's doing so well.
Exactly.
And they're expanding into new markets all the time. They're even partnering with companies like Wegmans and Home Depot to offer grocery and home improvement delivery.
Yeah.
It's not like they're just sitting around waiting for the AVs to arrive.
Exactly. They're actively diversifying their business and building a much more robust platform. So even if the AVs never fully pan out,
Right.
Uber still has a lot going for it.
Right.
They've got a proven business model, a strong brand, and a massive network of drivers and users.
So it's not just about the future. It's about balancing the potential of AVs against what Uber's actually doing right now in their business.
Yeah, finding that balance.
So what should investors be focusing on right now?
That's what we're going to tackle in the last part of our deep dive.
Okay, the grand finale.
But remember, the point here isn't to tell you what to think about this. It's to give you all the information and insights you need to make up your own mind.
Stick around for the final part. All right, so we've covered a lot here.
We have.
Record earnings profitability concerns.
Uh-huh.
The whole question of autonomous vehicles. It's a lot to think about.
It really is. So let's break this down. If you were thinking about investing in Uber, what are the key things you should be watching?
Yeah, give us like the cheat sheet.
Go ahead.
What are the make or break factors?
Well, first of all, remember that investing always has some risk,
Of course.
especially with a tech company like Uber. I mean, the potential rewards are huge,
Right.
but the potential downsides are huge too.
So no guarantees.
Got it. Exactly. You have to be okay with some uncertainty.
Right.
And with Uber, that uncertainty is coming from a lot of different places.
Like those FX headwinds we talked about, insurance costs, competition.
All of that, absolutely. But I think the biggest question mark right now is really just the long-term viability of those autonomous vehicles.
Yeah. The AVs are a wild card.
They are.
Okay. So let's say I'm like super bullish on AVs.
Okay.
I think they're the future of transportation. I believe Uber is going to be a leader in that space. Does that mean I should buy the stock right now?
Well, not so fast. Even if you totally believe in AVs, you have to be realistic about the timeline. I mean, widespread adoption of self-driving cars is still years away,
Okay.
maybe even decades.
Wow.
A lot can change between now and then.
So like worst case scenario, what could happen?
Well, the technology could just hit some unexpected problems.
Okay.
Regulations could really slow things down.
Mhm.
Public acceptance might just be lower than people are expecting.
Right.
Or maybe a competitor comes out of nowhere with a better AV solution.
Wow.
Any of those things could really throw Uber's plans off track.
All right. So that's the cautious perspective.
Hmm.
But what if I'm like skeptical about AVs? Does that mean Uber is automatically a bad investment?
No, not necessarily. Remember, Uber is already a huge global company in the ride-hailing and delivery space.
Yeah,
I mean, they're bringing in billions of dollars in revenue,
it's true.
and they're always innovating.
They are. Remember the Uber One membership program? It's killing it.
Exactly.
Plus, they're expanding into new markets all the time. And they're even working with companies like Wegmans and Home Depot to offer grocery and home improvement deliveries.
That's right.
So they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Even if AVs never really take off, Uber still has that really strong core business. They've got a model that works a powerful brand and this huge network of drivers and users. So there's a lot to like there.
So it sounds like what we're really talking about is balancing the potential of those AVs with the reality of Uber's current business.
You got it.
It's a balancing act.
Pat. It is, ask yourself, how much are you willing to bet on the future versus what's happening right now? What level of risk are you comfortable with?
Because at the end of the day, this is your money.
It is.
It's your decision. We can't tell you what to do. But hopefully this deep dive has given you the information you need to make a good choice.
That's what we're here for.
Exactly. Investing is a journey, not a destination.
Very true.
There will be ups and downs. The important thing is to stay informed, do your research, and invest in companies that you really believe in.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And speaking of staying informed, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss out on our next deep dive into the world of business and finance. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.